to America's Got Podcasts. I am Cody Mims here with a satisfied Snapple customer, GJ Corbin.
Hello.
So, round 2, auditions. What'd you think?
Overall, I thought this episode was much better than the previous in terms of quality acts. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was far more satisfying.
Definitely.
The first act we got was Alla and Daniel Novikov, mother and son dance duo.
Yep.
What'd you think of them?
I was surprised. So, in general, and I referenced this last week as well, but I'm usually not a fan of dance acts. They don't click with me. But I really, really enjoyed this act. I thought the moves were very slick. Daniel had a lot of charisma. I liked it a lot more than I usually did. I 100% agree with the comments that Mel B made. And one of my favorite touches was when they got all the yeses, spoilers. Alla seemed just as excited and happy as Daniel did, which I thought came across as very genuine.
Yeah, I thought they were pretty slick and pretty cute.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't really say they're the best dancers we've ever seen.
No,
but
definitely.
This is just the audition round, and I'm probably comparing them mentally to, people who made it to the semifinals and stuff. But I thought they were pretty good. They had some chops. They got a yes from the judges, and I give them a yes as well.
Same here.
So we saw the judges hanging about as they do, and they hang out in a much bigger room now, which is good, because before they were pretty cramped back in New York.
Yeah.
Their antics can roam free. And then we saw Jonathan Nosen, I guess, who was the contortionist.
Yeah. I thought it was cool, didn't come across as super special, though. Every circus has a contortionist like this. He didn't do anything super impressive, at least to my knowledge, anyway.
I agree. He was not the best contortionist we've seen by any means. I thought he looked like he was struggling, which I'm sure all contortionists really do. I'm sure they all go to their limits, but I hope this guy doesn't hurt himself. I just thought he was entertaining.
Yeah, he had a really great smile. Totally random, but I thought he was going to be some sort of entertainer, as in like a comedian or something, based on his stage presence alone. Of course, that wasn't the case, but I thought he had a great presence to him, though that didn't really impact the act itself. One thing that I thought was really interesting, one of the judges commented, I'm not sure who, about seeing the fact that he was a male contortionist. And that caught me off guard, because, I had written him off as, all right, but that's it. But I don't think I've ever seen any male contortionists. And the way that they talked about it, it seemed like male contortionists maybe aren't all that common, but...
Sure. Well, as soon as he started, that was actually what I thought. And I wasn't expecting any of them to comment on it like she did, but... Yeah, that was an interesting facet of it as well. And I don't necessarily think that men need to take over contortionism, but that was another interesting thing about his performance.
Yeah, and when I looked it up, I saw that in general, a male contortionism isn't all that common. Whether that's because of society's expectations of, women are flexible or whatever, or if it's because physically it's harder for men to do something like that, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, that could definitely be the case. My guess would be that it is just more appealing to most people to see a woman do it. But
yeah.
I don't know, but I thought this guy was entertaining. They gave him a yes, and I would also give him a yes.
Yeah, just to see what he has in store.
Certainly. Next was musicality.
Yeah.
This was this choir, and they had a lot of pep.
Yeah.
And they also had pretty much the most classic story that you can get. It's cool that is happening, although it's hard to be swayed by how many times you've heard this tale, both in fiction and real life.
Yeah.
But if you stop and think about it, it is legitimately cool that they have this sort of, place their home away from home.
Definitely. But yeah, you're right. Actually, when listening to that, it spawned another cliche to add to my list, which is from the ghetto, which is a subset of the, I've worked so hard cliche, but specifically that, because even though we're in a bad neighborhood, which is used almost every time, doesn't define who we are and something like that. As for the act itself, though, I thought they were really, really good. And I had a really interesting experience watching them because, so the package came on, right? And they were talking about just whatever, and you're not entirely sure what they're doing, and leading up to it. And I had this I had this strange feeling like I had seen them before, and I was like, I recognize these guys. And then Nick Cannon asked them who they were, and they said musicality, and it just clicked. I know these guys. Well, not personally, but I discovered them like a little over a week ago on YouTube, and it was just really weird to see something like that, and it was a strange experience. The first thing I've had like that, where I recognized one of the acts without knowing beforehand that they were there.
That's fantastic. Maybe they've been growing just from the people who saw them live at this audition.
Well, yeah, so YouTube, their channel has about 5,000 subscribers, so they're doing pretty well from themselves, but nothing amazing or mind-blowing. But I would expect that number to jump up quite a bit in this next few days.
That's cool. I like them too. I don't know if they're as pitch perfect as that duo that we had last year, the Craig Lewis band.
Yeah.
As soon as they started, I saw Simon narrowed his eyes as he determined if they're pitchy or not. But I thought they sounded pretty good, and I really liked how they were all in these separate groups around the microphones.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great stage presence. It's such a wonderful change from just seeing everybody lined up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It started. I thought it was pretty cool, but that second guy, he really had a great voice.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He has one of the better voices of the group.
And I thought they were great, but I'm actually proud of the judges for not leaping to giving them a standing ovation just because they are talented with an emotional backstory, because I didn't really think they were standing ovation worthy, but I
Not quite.
am happy to see them go on.
Yeah. Before we move on, though, another interesting tidbit here that fascinated me. I had initially pegged them as an a cappella group, right? Because, there's no instruments. They're all singing and making noises. It's a cappella, right? But then one of the judges referred to them as choir. And that seemed to make sense, too. So I had this question. What's the line between a cappella and choir? Where's the distinction? What's the difference? So I did a bit of research, actually, and based on the source I have, this is like a blog post by some guy who works in a choir and has done some talent or whatever for a cappella groups. He says that choir puts an emphasis on the group. It's the entire group singing in one large chorus, whereas a cappella often puts emphasis on the individual. So I actually think that musicality would fall under a cappella, at least using these definitions. Because everyone else was singing backup and harmonizing, but those three guys in front, primarily the first two, were really had the spotlight there.
So did they not have a backing track?
Not that I noticed.
That's interesting. I didn't even realize that, but
they don't have any backing or anything on their music videos on YouTube.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that is an interesting line to draw, and I think Lincoln Bridge has a very serious competitor.
Yeah.
So next up was Florence and somebody else.
And Olga.
Okay, what did they do?
They did the dance routine, then they started fighting. It was a comedy thing.
Right. So were they a no?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Okay, because they never showed their decision, so I guess so. Yeah, I didn't think they were great, but it was a nice, inventive, misleading thing.
I think it was a funny idea for like a sketch. The execution left a lot to be desired. I think a better build up to them actually fighting if they had gotten in their way and then started intentionally hurting each other right before they started, smashing the other face in the ground or whatever. It was a bit ridiculous.
Sure, but I must say they really went all in.
Yes.
Those horrified reactions were justified, I think.
You could see the pain on Mel B and Heidi's face when they started pulling each other's hair.
Yes, absolutely. Then we had some karate guy.
Yeah.
And also someone called Violin Monster.
Yeah.
We didn't get to see much of either of them,
nope.
But I don't think we really missed much.
No, definitely not.
And next up was Tita Begashaw.
Mm-hmm.
And she made people laugh, and she had this whole package about laughter, and I think it was great how Nick said how he just wants people to laugh at his jokes, and then it cut to him saying, "I'm venting." next to the vent.
Yeah.
That was good editing. We
Mm,
haven't really talked about this much, but I think the AGT editors do a really good job. That intro that they also had that was kind of Simon centric. That
yep.
was great.
Yeah. I also noticed the editing at the end of Musicality, where Howie made a comment about the energy the group had, and then it immediately cuts to them bursting out of the doors, running all excited like.
That's rad. So anyway, this woman was teaching people how to laugh, and this made me think: is this another cliche in the making? Because it seems like there have been a few people who just come on to coach people in how to
Mhm.
do things, like the cuddler, and I feel like there's been somebody
That's
before, but
true.
I
Yeah.
can't back that up.
Yeah, I think there's got to be at least one more example. Can't think of it off the top of my head. It's pretty interesting, though. A lot of acts, especially comedians, they usually open up with, I want to make someone laugh. But she took that goal quite literally, instructing everyone how to laugh.
Exactly. This also brought up one of my annoyances with this show. It's not the biggest one. We'll get to the biggest one later, but I mean in later episodes. But I hate it when judges hit other judges' buzzers.
Hmm.
Even
Yeah,
though I didn't really want to see more of this woman, like, come on, preserve the integrity.
yeah, yeah. It was interesting though when I noticed that Howie had his ex retracted. From my memory, anyway, I don't remember anything else like that happening. I know at one point Piers Morgan retracted his buzzer after the act, and he was discussing and realized he didn't hate it. But mid-act like that, that kept an act from failing. I don't think we've seen anything like that before, at least to my knowledge.
Yeah, I think they have a pretty simple setup. It's on or it's
Yeah,
off. So they gave her a no. I would agree.
definitely. There were some weird undertones throughout the act, and I think it was really obvious when she was walking away or being dragged away by Nick, and she was laughing again. I found that personally really unsettling. I think she might not be the most sane person, or at least she's really going in with that personality and not letting go. Because,
Yeah, that's an interesting observation. Nice, nice undertones there. So then we had this family band, which I think is my favorite family band to date on this show.
yeah,
Um, their name was Edgar,
hmm,
which I was I don't know. I thought that was very weird. That was an odd choice for the name of their band.
well, it's their last name, so it's the Edgar family band. But for some reason on the
Oh,
text they just said Edgar.
okay. That that weirded me out, but okay, good catch there. Anyway, this was the trio of the parents and the daughter, and they had a very non-conventional story in contrast to the choir that we saw before,
Yeah.
which I really liked. Those kinds of stories wrote me in sometimes. Drew Lynch's was another example of one that I got really into.
Hmm.
So basically, just to recap, is this woman was on a Christian music label, and then she got pregnant as a teenager, and her label cut her off, and I guess told all the radio stations and whatever to cut her off as well. Um, and then to add to that, the guy that they're with is not the original father, but they all came back as a family to do this band now, and it seems great. I thought they were very lovable and pretty good singers. What do you think of them?
Yeah, I really enjoyed their sound and their story was great. I tend to try and separate that from the act itself. Like if they were absolutely terrible, I would
Sure.
judge them as such. But they did really have the vocals to back it up, and I'm looking forward to what they have.
Yeah, they sang "Stand by You," which I'm not really familiar with that song. Do you know if that's a Christian song or not?
Not that I know of.
Okay, so I feel like it wasn't, but it was a song that could easily be applied to religion
Yeah.
and Christianity, and I feel like that's probably what they're going to continue to do as they go through the show.
I feel like that song in particular, it sounded almost like it was directed to her daughter. Because she was shunned by this community because of her daughter's existence in reality. And you can see that they seem to have raised their daughter really well, and there seemed to be a sense of loyalty coming out of that song choice and the way it was sung.
That is an even better way to look at it. I like that. I'm really interested to see more in them. And then Howie was like, "You've given birth to a second chance," which I thought that was very weird. Howie tries so hard.
Yeah, it's a really weird image to think of, especially considering the reason that she was kicked out of the industry was because of a birth. It's a weird connection to make.
Yeah, sure. But the judges gave him a resounding yes, and I would give him a yes as well.
Definitely.
Next up was this hand bouncer Daredevil, which I'm not sure either of us caught the name of
I
because we were
didn't.
having technical difficulties.
Yeah.
But this guy was building his own ladder out of these chair-like structures,
Hmm.
and I thought he put Uzier to shame. I mean, I'm sure we could go on forever about the plight of Uzier, but I mean, that wasn't his original trick. But this guy is a pro at it, and I thought he was very good. He went all the way up to the signs.
Yeah. I wasn't too impressed. I have seen acts like that at the local circus. Something even more impressive. They had like a ball on it and stuff. Um, so I'm hoping that he has more to show us, and this isn't the best he has to offer. It was interesting though. Looking at it, it was almost like the opposite of the cute kid cliche, because the reason it was really impressive was because he's old and it looked like he had a little bit of Alzheimer's and his ability to maintain balance in spite of that. Yeah, I thought it was interesting.
Uh-huh. And I like the ending too. They got a brilliant face shot of him looking concerned right before he came down, and then he did a
Hmm.
flip at the end.
Yeah,
So he has good presentation skills, and I think he will do a good job of amping it up, and it could get very dangerous.
yeah, I hope so.
I liked it. The judges put him through.
I
I
would
give
put
him a
him through as
yes.
well. Yeah.
Cool. Um, then we had Malivo.
It was like the Argentinian sexy dance drum guys.
Okay, okay. Wait, this isn't the drone act. Is it?
Yeah, they were drumming at the beginning, but then they
Oh, okay.
forgot
I
and
thought you
started
said
dancing.
drone.
No,
Yes.
no.
Okay. Right. These were the guys with the drums, and they had this whole rhythmic thing. Howie claimed it's hard to impress them, which I don't agree with. But
Yeah.
what was your impression of this act?
I thought it felt very unfocused. I thought the beginning was cool, like really, really cool with the drums, and they were kind of dancing with the drums while working at it. But then they put those down and tried all these other things. It felt like they were, throwing spaghetti and see what would stick. I would put them through, but I hope they have more of a vision for the future because it felt very much unfocused, like they're just showing every talent they have in order to prepare us for the future or whatever.
That's a good way to look at it. I think I just wasn't really impressed by the premise. I mean, it didn't really grab me.
Hmm.
I think they're talented, but I simply wasn't entertained with
Yeah.
this act. But the judges put them through. I would have to say no, but I think they're good at what they do.
I'm not entirely sure what my choice would be if I were on the judges panel, but I know that I will be looking with a very critical eye when they show up once more.
All right, next up was Danny Palumbo. This was a comedian. They had a whole thing about comedians, and he did his act to resounding silence.
It was terrible. Ugh.
I didn't like it either, but I was really wondering why the audience hated it so much because I feel like worse acts than this have been put through.
The big thing that really got the audience angry at him was how he responded to Simon's buzz. And this is something that Howie mentioned in his comments, is that this is a game and he was unwilling to play. The audience, as we know, the audience does not always make the best decisions. They'll give a standing ovation for a terrible chicken dancing act because it annoys the judges or whatever. It was from a few seasons ago. But, they do it for fun. And if he used that and he played with it, like Howie was suggesting, then he could have used it to his strength. But instead, he got all whiny and started complaining about it.
That's true. He didn't have very good stage presence, I guess, but anyway, as soon as he was given the X, we saw some guy off stage, and it was clear, all right, here's the real comedian.
Yeah,
Anyway, they gave Danny a no. I would also give him a no.
definitely.
But then we saw DJ, and I thought he was actually very good and sort of breaking the boundaries of stand-up comedy and just the slightest of ways.
Really? What was that?
Um, like when he talked about, well, when he said it got quiet, and he was actually referencing his hearing problems,
Yeah.
and then he was talking about them assessing him and getting all into the audience's
Yeah.
minds. Like, I think he's very creative and he has a lot to show us.
Yeah. I thought the first joke he did about his hearing was really, really funny. It was hilarious. He only really had two jokes his whole act, which was this first one about his hearing, then the second one about figuring out whether he's gay or not. And I thought the last joke was kind of funny, but the punchline didn't really come in towards the end, and I felt like it took too long to get there for the laughs. I thought the first joke was funnier. However, he had great interaction with the judges, so you can tell that he could really think on his feet, and I'm really looking forward to what he has for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with the judges stuff, and he is very comfortable being funny outside of his act, which sort of reminded me of Taylor a little bit, and
Hmm.
it's got me very hopeful for him because I like Taylor a lot. And I think it's such a stark contrast to Danny because he seems very comfortable making the audience uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And I also appreciated that in the end he kept his sexuality ambiguous and he wouldn't really answer Mel's question.
he really milked every joke he could get out of that.
Yes. I think he had a good personality and surprisingly talented for someone on this show, I guess.
Yeah,
Uh we've seen some good comedians and I think this will probably be our best this season.
at this point, yeah. It'll be interesting to see how he stacks up, though, because his past few years has been pretty strong for comedians, I'd say, in comparison to earlier years.
Mhm. I didn't like last year so much, but he actually went pretty far, so it seems like America wants at least one each year.
Yeah.
Okay, next was John Hetlinger, and this guy was pretty wild. I say good on him for having fun, but he sang "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor," and I thought the best part about this was his really impressive resume.
Yeah, yeah.
Is he talented? I would say no,
Not
but
really.
he put on a good show. Like I think he has some real personality and presence.
You could tell that the reason he was on the show, or at least on the episode that we watched, was because of the audience interaction. And I'd say this is far superior to Captain Bubbles or whatever from last episode.
Yeah, this was a more positively ending fake out, I think, and they
Yep.
actually put him through.
Yeah. Not sure how I feel about that, but
He's not gonna win.
no, definitely
Just
not.
keeping that in mind. I would not put him through.
Yeah.
But I mean, he probably didn't expect to go through. I think he was sort of aware how funny this would be. So
Mm.
it'll be interesting to see what he does next. Maybe he'll just talk about science or something.
That would be quite an unexpected twist.
Yeah, but he seems funny. I hope he has more to show than what he's letting on. If he became a serious actor, I would be very surprised, but pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Next, we got. Oh, this was when the Karate Kid came. Who was I thinking of before?
Oh, yeah, there was a karate guy earlier who just punched his assistant in the nuts repeatedly.
Oh,
And then
okay.
here we get a clip of some kid with a staff.
Okay, I didn't really catch that other one very much, but yeah, not a great night for karate. They're pretty much over too.
Yeah.
Okay, then we had somebody singing Knock on Wood, and she, I thought, was a very good singer and a very big performance, which I thought set her apart from some of the other singers.
Yeah.
Would you say you were enthralled?
I wouldn't say I was enthralled, but with the voice that she definitely deserved to go through, like without a doubt. The question here is whether she'll really be able to use it to its fullest extent. We didn't really see much of her act today, so it was hard to tell, but she has potential for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure how you can grow a performance from that, but I would definitely put her through, as did the judges.
Yeah.
Then we had a strong guy who lifted Heidi and did some cool weightlifting.
and did a split that looked really painful.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what he can do. I mean, it's pretty basic compared to some of the strong people we've seen before. Like the
Yeah.
duos are usually the best when they
hmm
lift each other and add in some balancing, which I think we do. We already have a more impressive acrobat from last episode.
We had a clip of one acrobatic group, but we didn't really see much of them.
Okay,
That's all that I can remember.
yeah. So I think really most other seasons this guy wouldn't have a very good shot, but I do want to see more of him. So I would give him yes, which the judges did.
Yeah, same.
And then we had 11 play, which I thought was pretty incredible, honestly.
Yeah.
I was captivated.
At first, I was skeptical when I saw that they were quadricopters and was like, wasn't really sure what they're going to do with it. But even in this one audition alone, they really showed the versatility of what they have, and I came away very impressed.
Yeah, me too. Would you put this in your electronic dancer cliche?
Yes, because they were using lights and darkness.
I think this is probably perhaps the most innovative group that we have seen in that space yet, just going by auditions.
Oh yeah, the most creative since Falling Gravity, which really kicked it off.
Yeah, there's just something about those things floating everywhere that is just glorious, and I would love to see that
Yeah,
live.
definitely.
One question I had about it was, are those things human controlled? Like, what were the people who came out with them later? Are they controlling the things? Are they out there during the act? I mean, they were wearing black, so I'm not really sure what they were doing.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty confident that they were not all controlled by a person. Some might have been, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were using some sort of AI program, which I was saw a video about it a couple of years ago about a collective hive mind AI using various quadricopters to work together into format. So that's probably the way they're going about it, and just
Wow,
someone looking it over.
that's incredible. It's like those school of fish that make the patterns in Finding Nemo.
Yeah, they actually used flock a certain species flock of flying patterns and the way they would interact as a basis for this AI.
Wow, that's amazing. I really hope that's what's going on here. This act is so cool.
Really cool. Yeah.
And then we ended the night with Grace Vanderwall. And when my sister saw her in the promos, she said she wanted to punch her in the face.
What? Really?
It was when she said, when miracles can happen. She was so, like, it seemed like she was trying so hard to be cutesy with that. She sounded very different than she did when everyone else was talking. But that's a very superficial statement to make. We probably shouldn't be judging 12-year-old girls on their appearance.
Yeah.
But anyway, she got the golden buzzer, which we had predicted. Well, first of all, because we were running out of time in the episode, and also because in the first commercial they made, if you pause it at a certain point, they zoom out on somebody who got a golden buzzer, and they were wearing yellow pants. So it turned out to be her.
Mm. Yeah.
My favorite thing about this was that she sang an original song. I love when that
Yeah.
happens.
They don't really do original songs in AGT, and I remember actually a few years ago there was a girl that did an original song back when Piers Morgan was still on, and actually I think the reason why no one really does original songs is because she made it to the second round, and there Piers Morgan was telling her that really you're at a disadvantage when you're using an original song because it's harder for the judges to compare you to other singers and get an idea of what your voice is like because they're unfamiliar with the song. That's his argument anyway. And, he was really influential over acts. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's why, in general, you see mostly covers. I thought it was great to see a return to original songs, though.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I don't like discouraging acts from using them, no matter how strategic it is. I would prefer they wow us with all the artistic integrity they have, and I thought, I mean, it was a
Yeah.
pretty cool song.
Yeah.
She even had good stage presence too. I thought when she
hmm
was laughing when they first applauded, and she sort of worked that into her song. That like she's a pro.
Yeah. Yeah. She felt she was really composed, even though she kind of broke concentration there and laughed at their response. She immediately went right back into it and didn't mess the flow of the song or anything.
Mm-hmm. She sounds like somebody I can't think of. Maybe it's just a lot of female indie singers, but this is not my kind of song at all. With the plucky acoustic guitar and a simple voice, with the song with that tone, but I did think that she was exquisite.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought she had a great voice. She sounded when she was singing like she was in her mid to late 20s, which was, I think, the most impressive form of the, little kid, big voice trope, because it wasn't opera, which is the most common one we see. I thought the song itself was well written and composed. Nothing, not Grammy winning or anything, but for a 12-year-old, it was pretty impressive. I thought her, presence overall, unlike your sister, I actually quite enjoyed her. I thought she was adorable, came across as very, very genuine, and I really liked it. It also helps that that's my kind of music. It actually, her song reminded me in particular of one other singer, a YouTuber called Dodie Clark. That's like exactly her style. The single ukulele, the voice in that same pitch and rhythm, everything was just like it.
Okay, cool. I hope she does originals again and does not run
Yeah.
out. I mean, I don't know how big a stockpile she has, but she's very good for 12 years old. Very good in general. Do you think she's the next Taylor Swift?
As long as nothing happens to tank her career. As long as she doesn't have a baby while she's still a teen, I think she'll be good.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that about does it for this week, unless you have anything else.
That's it.
Thanks for listening, folks. It's a great season so far. We'll see
Yeah.
you next time, and hallelujah.